to the Americas DLC. We're finally building for these animals in a way that's not my sandbox kind of preview. So we actually built this before that, but you would have only been able to catch that on stream. So I'm going to be creating a pavilion for the Galapagos species. So things like Galapagos Tortoises and the American Flamingo. We'll have some other island species as well, such as the Lesser Antillean iguana, the green iguana, and yeah, that's it. But this was me trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to make this. I wanted to make it hexagonal, or hexagonal. I end up going octagonal, and it seems to work fine. So it was a pretty fun build. I really like how it turns out, and let me just tell you, the American Flamingo does not disappoint. You're gonna see probably, I think I kept it in. I used the Greater Flamingo as reference, which ended up being a good decision because they're basically exactly the same, but the American Flamingo requires more individuals. We will actually have less individuals than the required amount, but they seem to actually be fine with it. Also, great thing about these flamingos is they are not shy. They are neutral to guest, which is great. Really makes these flamingos so much more useful than the other flamingos in franchise mode. This was me just trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to do this center bit for the pavilion. Apologies for that. Hopefully it wasn't too loud. Cinematics I don't have too long. I mean, it's as cool as the flamingos are. They are flamingos nonetheless. So I would suggest if you want to see a really good look at the flamingos, you check out my other video. I'll link it up at the top here. And we'll do a full preview there. But yeah, we're just kind of getting this pavilion, kind of trying to make it look kind of nice and warm and cozy, and then we're going to try and cover up a lot of these, cover up all these just different little bits and bobs. It's just kind of making it look a little bit more interesting. So here we're just kind of covering up everything, making it look like we can actually grab, just mask those lines in the floor. So that's kind of what we do here, and yeah, I really enjoy this build. I think I've said that several times now, but you kind of just go all out on this build with all these wood panels. I really enjoy just the way that this build kind of pulled itself together, and I think it looks really cohesive, and I think it was probably one of the builds that I felt like worked together. Probably one of the smoothest builds I've ever done. Everything just kind of pieced together, rotated well. Here we're just going to kind of create the walls to it. Try and create these supporting posts, which is a little tricky just because, you know, you've got to figure out what angle you're going to do everything at. But ends up working pretty well, and I get to rotate everything along again. And a pretty easy, not too complicated piece. Not too many piece counts, but a good bit, I'd say. Also, apologies if my dogs freak out at any point. They're not getting their feeding time as normal because we got a grocery order in, and so they might just riot at any given moment. But don't worry, I'm still feeding my dogs. I'm kind of realizing now that I probably should have done more to the stairs for this building, but it does end up working pretty well. This pathing for this is, of course, just a nightmare because it's such a small area, and you'll see later what I mean, because here it wasn't as big of a deal, but later on you'll see. So I wanted to get these arbor pieces because I think they look good. I wanted to create this kind of arbor, and then at first I was going to just put all the top parts in, but then I was like, what, you know what? we're going to create a way more complicated structure. So definitely want to get that done. So here we wanted to use this mesh and just kind of create a more interesting mesh type, and just as a way to keep guests from falling over. And then here I wanted to do a little bit more complicated stuff on the top. So we're going to use this arbor piece here and just kind of tie it in, and we'll make more edits to it later, but with that I'm pretty confident in how it looks. Probably should have created the roof as part of this as well. We will create the roof later, and it seems to work out pretty fine. You can let me know what you think about the building in the comments below. It really does help. And by the way, if you are enjoying this video so far, I highly recommend going ahead and liking the video. It really does help. Liking, subscribing, it helps with engagement, helps with just everything kind of piecing together to help the channel grow and just help more people see these videos. Here I was just kind of explaining where stuff is going to go. Next episode, we are not going to be building for a DLC creature. We'll be building for the armadillo. We will be rebuilding their habitat. And let me just say, I've already finished it, but you might see bits of it in the cinematics. But it looks like an amazing build, I think. I think the armadillo has one of the greatest hitboxes in the game, so you can do a lot more. This is just me explaining that the... I guess I could just explain kind of what... where the new animals are coming. This was exciting because this was the day of the release that I was building, or the day before the release I was building this. I finished it on the day of the release, I think. Kind of hard to remember, but we will get the American Flamingos in the cinematics. And so here I am just trying to rotate that over, but for species, the American Flamingo and Galapagos Tortoise are kind of the ones that go together here. They unfortunately do not have interspecies enrichment, but it is what it is. The next one is going to be the bear. Well, we've got the armadillo going into the restaurant, and then we will have the Baird's tapir and bush dog together, which is a very unusual pairing. So just bear with me on that one. I'm hoping that they don't attack each other in game. I'm gonna actually test that this morning. They shouldn't, at least when they have two. But apparently bush dogs do in fact prey on tapir in the wild. And yeah, so we're gonna only have two of them, and we can say that they were habituated to each other. Hopefully that lore reason will work. I didn't realize that until some people in the ZSH Discord let me know. So if you enjoy Planet Zoo, you'll also enjoy ZSH Plays. You probably already know him if you watch me, but he's a great YouTuber, and his Discord is really great if you have ideas for, if you want feedback on your zoo. You can kind of see here where I struggled with the pathing, and yeah, it just really gave me some struggles. So I guess I am kind of glad that I built the roof later, because trying to do this pathing with the roof would have been really frustrating. It kept wanting to connect to the bottom area, but I ended up fixing it. But every time I tried to move one of these, it would reconnect. It's quite frustrating. But yeah, we've got our Antillean iguanas over here, and the green iguanas adjacent to them. I think this is a pretty cool area. This is going to be called the Tropics Territories. I probably need to build a sign for it. And then I wanted to use this Indonesian stained timber to kind of create these exhibit boxes, make them look a little bit more interesting. Of course, there's little adjustments that need to be made here and there, but I end up really liking how the exhibit boxes look. I think they look quite like an actual zoo exhibit. Iguanas do live in exhibits this size. though I think zoos probably keep them more frequently in different sized exhibits, in larger exhibits, because this is like more of a pet iguana sized exhibit. Again, some zoos probably do keep them like this if they don't have enough space for a larger enclosure, but you would hope that your zoo would have a larger iguana enclosure. Sorry, I had a sneeze almost there, but I managed to catch it. Allergies have been crazy here in the South, so just apologize for that. But if I paused every single time I had allergy issues, we would not get a video recorded. So this is a longer video because I didn't do too much cutting, because I just really felt like you kind of needed a lot of explanation for this one as well. And I actually grabbed every single piece that I needed for this. It was kind of crazy. I don't know why it acted like those pieces were more separate. They weren't in the game. Yeah, allergies killing me. But we're kind of bringing this together, and then we're going to be redoing some of the pathing. And then we'll actually get to the enclosure here in a minute. But I think that this pagoda, not pagoda, but I think it works pretty well as a just general pavilion. That's what the word I'm looking for is. And so we kind of create this thing, and then we're going to grab it and turn it around. I end up doing this, and then I figure out that there's better ways to do this. This is going to be the central area eventually. I end up really liking the way that this roof turns out. But it goes through quite a bit of change. So this is where I realized, wait, those pieces perfectly line up. So we'll just kind of make that work. And this is not working for me, but I do figure out how to make it work pretty well. Kind of wish I had, you realize hindsight is 2020. Okay, yeah, I don't delete that, which was good because I really liked that piece. But here we just grab this, rotate it over. I think this goes pretty smoothly. And then we just start rotating it along like this, and then we're going to just kind of group everything, and then we're going to just grab these bits at the end here and just rotate them the tiniest bit, and that's going to get us our roof. And then just bring that down, and we've got this nice style roof, but it's kind of, the shingle bottoms doesn't have anything going for it, so what I wanted to do was kind of create some logs and stuff. Yeah, here we are with that. So I wanted to kind of make it almost an offshoot of that. And then, of course, we can use, because this is roughly circular, we get to really nicely bring everything together, grab everything, and then we can just sink it down a little bit to go down into the roof and act as supports, and it makes it look significantly better. Wanted to get some education signs in here. I am going to be designing some new education boards. I like these, they still work, but they're too big, and I saw something from Sarah, or not Sarah, Sparrow on YouTube of how to make some really small education boards, so I'll be creating that in my next stream, which will be, if you're watching this on the day that this video comes out, on Friday, I will be doing a big old Good Friday stream. I'm very excited about it. We'll be playing for a very long time, which is going to be nice. And kind of trying to get this bush dog bear's taper enclosure working together well. And if it doesn't work together and the animals kill each other in my test park, then I will I'll have to rework it and figure out how to make it into 2 enclosures instead of just the 1. But I think I know how I can make that work. I also add this area to try and make guest flow a little bit better. It does not work at all to make guest flow any better, because guest flow in this area is trash. We gotta figure out ways to kind of spread guests out, because they keep getting congested at our flamingos, which stresses out the flamingos. Even though they're neutral, it's still definitely, it's still left a bit of zoo management. You can also tell here I'm kind of just trying to get this kind of snug together, so we do our custom barriers. Also, finances in the zoo are looking significantly better, which is great. Really like how the zoo is ending up, and just kind of hoping that it manages to stay in this kind of manner. So this is how we end up making the stand-up, or actually this is the actual habitat barrier. I have a bit of a standoff barrier, but they are flamingos and tortoises, so it's not that serious if people get closer to the animals. We're just kind of creating this here, and I think this barrier, I really like the way that this barrier looks. So we just kind of mirror it along, and it's small enough that it can easily go around corners and stuff, so that's good as well. Wanted to put a little bit of separation between the animals and the barrier, but not too much that you can't see the animals. We'll also be adding a bunch of, I think I created in here, yeah. Create a bunch of different sort of sight blocking structures to try and give the animals a little bit more privacy. I also probably should have expanded this enclosure to be a little bit larger, but you know, it is what it is. This is also me just trying to figure out exactly where everything was going to go. I am also building a reptile like conservancy thing. Let me know if you actually want to see me build that. It's not much. It's really just going to be for the animals, to where the babies, I can separate them from the adults, which will make the adults a little bit happier, because the enclosure sizes are usually built with the idea of having 2 to 4 babies instead of 12, because the reptiles grow so slowly. So let me know if you want me to actually do a video of that. It's a very basic enclosure, even using in-game barriers and stuff. So I personally don't think it's incredibly impressive, but if you want to see it, go ahead and let me know in the comments on video. Otherwise, you can just watch me building it on stream. The streams are always still live, so it's not that difficult to go and see. I end up having to make this path a lot larger because guest flow through here is a nightmare. I'm also going to be creating the structure for the flamingos here. Just kind of trying to create the shelter space. I really like this shelter. Unfortunately, it's not large enough for flamingos, but I do think it really makes everything look like a real zoo would have. A kind of simple structure, nothing crazy. You don't need a full building. And then we're just kind of creating the roof here. Gonna use this asphalt roof, but I think I rework it to be asphalt on top of Arctic, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Yeah, I think so. Which, now thinking about it, I probably should have used the metal cladding roof because I really like that. But yeah, I'm really liking this Arctic roof over with something over it. Another thing by ZSH Plays, something that he does, and really makes the roof look significantly better. Then I gotta separate it and put it on there. The asphalt roof is a little bit boring, But again, this building is supposed to be boring. You're not supposed to pay attention to it. And then I go ahead and make something way more complicated than it probably needs to be. So I kind of close that area off a little bit, and we're about to create the door. The door. So I create a door frame. Just pretty simple, nothing crazy there. You know, just some conservation pieces, and then I grab some hinges, you know, nothing crazy there. And then, well, guys, what happens next is a little unfortunate, as I just make a ton of pieces. And try and make as realistic a door as possible. Is it a little big for the door? Yes. But that way it completely covers it, creates an insulating barrier, and then I use these thin boards to make this in here. I don't think I actually use the hinges on this piece, which is probably for the best. And then I recolor it, and just kind of recolor some of those pieces to make it look a little bit more regular. Put some hay in there, and we're going to do a little bit of a backstage area. It's not actually backstage, but you know, you kind of see this in zoos every once in a while, is just a few things in the enclosure that, like, they'll just go in for a bit and just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. My goodness, I can't think of how to explain it. Just stuff that they can immediately grab and not have to deal with, like, going back to their staff area. They can just have it out of the enclosure. We're also creating a tortoise hutch. So, yeah, this is probably one of the places where I messed up, because it's a ton of hinge pieces. It's quite an expensive tortoise hutch. Here was me trying to make sure that they could fit in it before I actually, like, kind of close it off. So yeah, we're gonna use these thin pieces, gonna put the hinge piece on them, and then just bring it along. I really like using the conservation pieces like this. We actually have a better nail piece with the America's pack, which is amazing. Let me just say, I really love the building pieces in this pack. I know there's not too many of them that are actually, like, standardly useful, but the metal pieces in this pack, honestly, for me, make the pack worth it, even if the animals suck, which, let me just tell you, they don't. The animals in this pack are probably some of the best that Planet Zoo's done, at least the best that they've done no, yeah, I'll just say they're some of the best that Planet Zoo's done. So, just saying. And then they can still use the hutch, so we're just going to move the hutch in there. It's not going to stay there, but kind of do some zoning work, and then want to create some, we're going to create a pool. The first pool does not work out, it's way too small, but we do end up making a significantly better pool. It was a pain to do, let me just tell you. Concrete pools / plaster pools are not something I'm very good at, and so please forgive me for just the struggle that this is. I was trying to figure out exactly why that was not working very well. What I ended up doing is just kind of recreating it from scratch, and that worked out pretty well. What didn't work out well was me trying to figure out how to rotate that over, but it didn't take too long. So yeah, we just kind of create this here. It's very much like what you would see in a regular flamingo, like sort of low budget, but like you don't want to go crazy on a flamingo enclosure, and this enclosure is already a little crazy. We got another 10 minutes or so in the video. I'm liking how this is coming along. I really love this pool, and I'm like, I'll just create a bunch of these if they need it, because it's supposed to be like a salt flat, so like you'll have these different hot springs or salt springs. I don't know if there's much of a difference. So I use the flattened terrace tool, and then I'm like, this is not nearly enough water. So I end up creating a very large area of water. and still not enough for the flamingos, I might add, but I make it work. I'm pretty proud of what we end up with, so I'm not going to go too crazy with kind of changing it up, even though it's a little bit small for what the animals actually want. I just had a ton of problems with this, and I didn't want to deal with it too much. But you're gonna see me try and salvage this. I end up just kind of using this pool as a base pool, and then we're gonna make a significantly larger pool area. Still too small, but it'll look really good in my opinion. You should let me know in the comments what you think about my first pool design and my second pool design, because they are pretty different from each other towards the end. This is probably one of the best habitats I've ever built in my opinion. I really like the greenery in it, even though the animals are not so happy about how much greenery is in it. But I guess it didn't take me too long to do this pool because, well, we don't have too much longer in the video, less than 10 minutes. And we still got to get foliage in, so that's nice at least to know that you're not going to see me doing this for an eternity, because, yeah, we're just kind of lining this around to just expand the pool, and we'll be filling in gaps later. Just kind of bringing this along. My patience, I found, has gotten so much higher through playing Planet Zoo and Prehistoric Kingdom, which is pretty exciting. I'll be playing Prehistoric Kingdom soon, don't you worry. Next week I'll be streaming some Minecraft, but then the week after that we'll be back to our Prehistoric Kingdom, because I've just been having a blast with that. The streams do well, even though the videos don't, so, you know, I've got a little bit of incentive for me to do it. But yeah, this pool, while being quite frustrating, gosh, my throat is now giving me problems. While being quite frustrating, the pool also was very rewarding because I think it works together pretty well. So we kind of create this retaining wall, and I really want to use it to make kind of a natural garden, is the idea. Again, sorry if you can hear the rasp in my voice. Hopefully it's not too bad. Then I realized that this is kind of coming down at an angle, so I need to make sure it doesn't do that. But yeah, we'll put a garden into this retaining wall, and then we're just going to kind of do that. Traversable terrain for the flamingo and the tortoise was actually significantly better than I thought. I thought that this would be difficult for them to move around in, but they really didn't have much problems with it, which was quite a pleasant surprise. So we're just going to try and finish this pond area, just lining it with this plaster, which works just so well for these ponds. I'm probably going to use it in the future. Not for the Baird's Taper one. I've got my own my own plan for that. I'm very excited about the taper / bush dog enclosure. I think all these enclosures that I've been doing recently are going to look very, very good. I like the armadillo one. I'm not trying to brag too much, but I am trying to brag a little bit. Here we are just kind of creating the floor of the plaster pool, but it's just a little bit of trying to make these lines kind of meld together pretty nicely. And then we're just kind of lining this floor, and we're gonna put a bunch of grunge and stuff on it, which is just gonna bring everything significantly better together. It's just going to be a nice little pond lake thing where we'll have, once we plant it up, it's going to look significantly better, because again, this is looking much like a just concrete pond, and you know, concrete ponds are only so interesting. But I kind of just finished this retaining wall here, and we're going to put the mulch pieces in just all over in this planted garden to kind of meld it together, to try and figure out how, I mean, if you got to figure out how you're going to put what the retaining wall is putting like together, then this mulch kind of lets you create kind of a flat surface, if that makes sense whatsoever. So I kind of just line it out, and I figure we're going to kind of fade out the garden here. And so what I do is kind of just use, I'll use circled pieces kind of sunk into the ground to make that look good, at least is the plan. And then we're just going to kind of, again, just move all these pieces along. It works together pretty well in my opinion. We'll just use some circular pieces to make it look a little bit less like they're rectangular pieces edged up next to, butted up next to each other. So yeah, we're just kind of putting this in, making the mulch look as realistic as possible. Because again, I mean, we want this to look at least semi-realistic. I know my builds aren't like 100% realistic, but at least semi-realistic. So we use this scaviola as our kind of ground cover because it just works really well as a ground cover. And animals can actually pass through it, which is nice. It's one of the better pieces that animals can actually move through. And then we're going to use some of this tropical leaves to just be at the bottom of this pond. Of course, we needed a tree for those leaves to come from. And I was trying to figure out exactly what plants I wanted to have in here. So we put a few lily pads in there, a few of these African palms, which I don't actually use very often, but I think they look pretty good here. Some banana trees, another plant that I don't use very often. So I don't actually use these palms very often at all through my zoo. So it was nice to get a little bit of a different thing. I'm trying to remember what I was doing. Oh yeah, I was grabbing these rock pebbles, which I use a little bit in the group. I probably should have just used some faux rock pebbles, but just kind of creating these rocky areas that look pretty decent in my opinion, but I just add a few more smaller rocks around as well. But just kind of brings the zoo exhibit together. And then I just kind of create some more rocky areas under the pavilion to kind of just keep the animals out from under the pavilion where the staff couldn't reach them. And then we're going to get in these greater flamingos, which are just a test, and then the Galapagos tortoise will be going there as well, but I was broke at this part, so trying to figure out a way to get the most amount of money back. We end up putting in a new butterfly enclosure as well, and let me just tell you, our financial problems are solved. With 2 butterfly houses, we're making a ton of money now. You haven't seen the first butterfly enclosure yet because that will come in another episode. I had all my Indian predators kind of built for, and then I was like, well, new pack, gotta create the America's pack stuff. So I'll have plenty of videos for you there. But here's our cinematics. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Keep it up.